Hello, my name is Gary and I'm the Vice President of Risk Solutions at hybrid-kinetic. The Risk Solutions and Analytics teams put this presentation together to help you understand your Risk Insight Report and the follow-on recommendations enclosed. The Risk Insight Report includes an overview of the destructive malware being used by Russian threat actors in Ukraine. It also provides a summary of how your third parties are exposed relative to the threat. Standards, frameworks, and regulations are among the various mappings you'll find in your framework mapper library. Today, however, we are focused on what we call a threat profile. This threat profile deals with the Russian state-sponsored deployment of destructive malware against Ukraine in order to cripple its infrastructure. In January and February, Whispergate and Hermetic Wiper malwares were identified as being used in destructive fashions to render systems inoperable. Many companies in the United States and Western Europe may not directly interact with vendors in Ukraine or Russia, but the distance between you and the warfighter cannot adequately insulate you from the spillover disruption that can result. The MITRE attack techniques and tactics listed here are agreed upon by the cybersecurity community at large as the attack vectors actors will likely use to exploit this pattern. The cyber-GRX controls required to block the avenues of attack are listed here as well on the right-hand side on this table. These are the controls used in the threat profile and also used in the analysis which follows. The cyber-GRX control framework is made up of 220 controls covering 27 cyber-related control families and is aligned with the most common IT control frameworks like NIST and ISO. The Russian cyber threat profile, as of this recording, includes 72 of the 220 subcontrols. The chart illustrated here shows a distribution of third parties in your portfolio by inherent risk who also have related findings. For example, while Acme's portfolio very likely has many more than 53 high inherent risk third parties, only 53 of them had both completed assessments and control findings that are related to the defense of Whispergate and Hermetic Wiper destructive malwares. This chart shows the vendors in your portfolio with the most related control findings. Only 3 of them are rated as high inherent risk, but don't be lured into a false sense of security. A great deal of our members accept our auto inherent risk rating for the tremendous value and efficiency that it offers in baselining a large ecosystem, but very rarely find the time to come back and fine-tune the impact settings. The next chart shows the destructive malware deficiencies that are most common amongst your vendor portfolio. We've already seen several of our members use their portfolio's deficiency information to organize town hall clinics to offer guidance on how to solve common deficiencies to its third-party populations. When you find an area of concentration of a particular type of deficiency, it is also a likely attack vector for threat actors. These are locations where you may want to indemnify yourself by shoring up your own internal controls and rely less on your vendors to do so. Let's look at how you can act on this data inside your own cyber-GRX platform. High, medium, and low inherent risk in this report and in the cyber-GRX platform are represented by the colors orange, blue, and green. Visit the Analysis tab and look for orange circles on the inherent risk chart. Click on each of the circles to drill in and classify the vendor. If you don't have enough time to classify each vendor in the inherent risk chart, at least try to classify the ones that are closest to the top of the chart and farthest to the right, which means they have the highest likelihood of an attack, and if attacked, will have the greatest impact if breached. Answer each of the 8 impact questions. These questions might change the inherent risk tier of a vendor, or could change one of the vendor's findings from a high priority deficiency to a matter altogether unrelated to your service. Now that your cyber-GRX portfolio has been fine-tuned to how your vendors are interacting with your assets, let's flood your portfolio with as much self-assessment data as possible. head over to the Portfolio Manager table and filter your portfolio to see only assessments that are available but that you have not ordered on, and order them. This is good for you and good for the exchange. Remember, you should already have these assessments in your portfolio well before a threat like a Russian destructive malware or Apache Log4j or SolarWinds hits the papers. A crisis or a vulnerability emerging is not the time to be collecting data. While you are waiting for the other assessments to be authorized, head over to the Assessment tab of the High-Risk Vendor Profiles and download the Russian state-sponsored framework mapping from your framework library. On the Results tab of the spreadsheet, filter on the Answer State column and look for things your vendor said no, skipped, or not applicable to. This is where your risk lies. Vendors which cannot provide an assessment or will not be compelled to do so, you can use predictive intelligence. On the Summary tab, you will find predicted key findings. Use the threat profile in the table above as a reference. Check to see if CyberGRX has a high confidence that your vendor is missing a key control that is critical to the defense of WhisperGate or Hermetic Wiper. If these key findings are too detailed, an alternative or summary prediction can be found under the Assessment tab. Remember, we are dealing with destructive malware, so look at the predicted risk of a destructive outcome. These scores are based on a 0 to 100 range. This example shows a predicted risk score of 5 out of 100, which is fairly low. For any vendor you come across that has a finding related to this threat profile, tag the vendor on the summary page with something you will remember, like WhisperGate. Finally, filter your high-risk controls in the residual risk module. As you page down the list, you can see the volume of deficiencies represented in your portfolio for each of the controls in the threat profile. Now it's time to engage your managers and security leaders to determine the best remediation and mitigation strategies. For more information, please reach out to your account manager or contact us through our website at www.cybergrx.com.